Welcome back, Bantwana Benkosi. This is Power Talk with me, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. We're going to hit right into it here on Power Talk. I'm going to welcome Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, who joins us through Zoom here in the studio. Thank you, Paul. Welcome to Power Talk.
Thank you, and good morning to yourself and to anybody that happens to be listening, which I hope is lots.
Okay. Maybe as a point of departure, because we have been listening to you over 2 days, interacting and submitting your evidence with the ad hoc committee. Maybe just a summary of your key evidence or evidence points thereof before we get into what the interactions constituted, whether in relation to terms of reference or many other issues that dominated the public discourse. Just a quick, if it's possible, as it were, what were the key submissions? What is it that you wanted to tell the ad hoc committee in relation to the investigations that they have?
Yeah, it's a little bit hard to give a quick submission, but the submission I did included, I think, 1,200 pages. And how you summarize that in a minute, I don't know. But I would say the main focus of my evidence was that I've been involved. I suppose you can say it's in my DNA that I've been involved in investigating crime in South Africa for 36 years. And the first 10 or so years of that was what I suppose you could call normal crime, if there's such a thing as normal crime. And the next 25 years, which is the last 25 years of my life, I've dedicated to fighting corruption within the criminal justice system. And I outlined a number of the cases which demonstrated that we have criminal syndicates operating within the criminal justice system. And at the center of all of those criminal syndicates, the most common denominator is crime intelligence and the utilization of what's known as the Secret Service account. I refer to it as the Crime Intelligence Slush Fund. And I pointed out that this slush fund, for the last 20 years at least, possibly longer, has been a piggy bank for corrupt police officials, and that they spend that money in secret. And if anybody attempts to look into, well, hang on a minute, what did you spend that 100 million on? They're shown a door and told that, no, that's secret. You're not allowed to ask questions. And if anybody does ask questions, they are accused of trying to breach the secrecy provisions of the Act. And I think that is the biggest challenge. And what I did say during my evidence was that in the year 2012, which is 14 years ago, the budget for the Crime Intelligence Slush Fund stood at 98 million rand per annum. And today it stands at 600 million rands per annum, which is an increase of over 500%. And during the same period, we did some analysis, during the same period of 14 years, inflation has only increased at 113%, which means that the Crime Intelligence Slush Fund budget has increased at just under 5 times the rate of inflation. And one would have expected, with all that additional monies, that we would have seen a concomitant drop in the level of serious crime in South Africa. And in fact, quite the opposite has happened. Crime has continued climbing. And finally, I should mention that we received a tip-off that the Crime Intelligence Slush Fund has been throttled In other words, the monies that were supposed to be used to pay informers, that money has been throttled. And it means there's less cash to pay informers, despite the fact that there's a 600 million rand budget. And this has been caused by the fact that monies have been spent on other things that have got nothing whatsoever to do with crime prevention. For example, in 2025, 120 million rand was spent on purchasing buildings, and those buildings are now owned by a private company. And the directors of that private company are members of crime intelligence. So there's a lot of questions that need to be asked. Whether they'll ever be asked or not is another story, because I made a very detailed report during 2025. In fact, in January 2025, I had several meetings with the Office for the Inspector General of Intelligence, and I managed to do some research and get the title deeds of all the buildings. And I supplied that information to the Office of the Inspector General of Intelligence, who then demanded to see certain documents from crime intelligence. And he was not given those documents, and he was subsequently suspended. So I think there is a very big cover-up going on. And that cover-up becomes clear when one looks at the conduct of the ad hoc committee, who appear more intent on destroying the credibility of what I would suggest to be decent witnesses, whilst the criminal witnesses that parade before them have an easy ride and no piercing questions are being asked.
Maybe before we go to other, because I do think that there's going to be a contestation in that regard of whether the same treatment or the same piercing, as you put it, questioning happened to witnesses prior to yourself or not. I do want you to, spend a little bit more time maybe providing what evidence supported these claims, these prior claims that you just made to the committee. Did you provide evidence to support any of the claims about the cover-ups, about the activities in relation to secret account and crime intelligence operatives?
Yes, thank you. In fact, I provided lots of evidence. And sadly, the committee members didn't want to hear about that evidence. So they glossed over it. And when I wanted to reference the pages, out of the 1,200 pages of evidence, 64 pages was my sworn statement, and the other 1,100 and something pages was the evidence. Mm-hmm. So there was plenty of evidence there and available, and the committee were insistent on not going into that evidence by cutting my testimony short, but rather having more time for themselves to attack my credibility.
Do you, I thought maybe you will go into that evidence for us. I do want to give you that opportunity here now to say, for this claim, you provided the following evidence, unless, of course, it is not something you are at liberty. I mean, since you made a submission which is public, it means it's something you can share here. That for this claim, I gave the following supporting evidence. For this claim, I gave the following supporting evidence. As you know, I served in the standing committee, Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence. I'm fully aware, and the Mufamadi report makes this this conclusive as well, that there was abuse of the secret fund, not just by crime intelligence, but also within the SSA. That there's abuse by the generals and all those things. I wonder if you want to point to the specific detail that you think you want to highlight in the interview today that points as well to this, but to these direction or to the claim that there is abuse of power, abuse of secret fund accounts, and that the generals, and if you can name them, they are corrupt.
All right.
And in what way are they corrupt?
Let me go into one or two examples, because if I have to go to the evidence of 1,200 pages, we'll still be chatting tomorrow morning. But I'm going to give you one or two examples. The first example, and I'm just going to go through them in the chronological order that I placed them into the evidence that I presented to the committee. And the first document I presented to the committee was a report that Forensics for Justice prepared in June 2017, which is now, nine years ago. And we published that report. It's on our website, on the Forensics for Justice website. And there we provided quite a bit of evidence. We labeled the names of the people that we considered to be involved. We listed what we considered to be their involvement. And then we listed the names of the people that were, shall we say, whistleblowers that were subject to unlawful treatment at the hands of the police. And I cited three particular matters. And the first matter we cited was what was referred to then, back in 2012 or 2013. We were saying that the capture of the criminal justice system started in 2012. And I referred to it as round 2 of the capture of the criminal justice system, because I said round 1 of the capture of the criminal justice system was during the period when Jackie Selebi, the late Jackie Selebi, was the Commissioner of Police. And I don't want to dwell too much on that, because I think most of that is common cause. But we then set out what we considered to be version 2 of the capture of the criminal justice system, which we said started in May 2012. Now, we provided the necessary evidence for that in our submission. And we said that there were 3 legs to the capture of the criminal justice system, which started in 2012. And the one leg was the project, which certain journalists in the media referred to as the Zimbabwe Rendition Project. And criminal dockets had been opened by people in crime intelligence against senior police officials, a Major General Sabir, who was at that time the Gauteng head of DPCI, DPCI being the Directorate for Priority Crimes Investigation, alternatively known as the Hawks. And Sabir was the head of the Hawks in Gauteng, and he reported to the national head of the Hawks, which was Lieutenant General Anwar Dramat. Now, the Zimbabwe Rendition Project, which was a manufactured project, manufactured criminal allegations against both Sabir and Dramat, and it alleged that they had been involved in unlawfully kidnapping some Zimbabweans, and that these Zimbabweans were then taken to the border at Bite Bridge and handed over to members of the Zimbabwean National Police. Now, and the allegation was that one of those persons was murdered by the Zimbabwean police. So we carried out investigations, and we were able to establish that, in fact, the person that had passed away as a result of, I think it was tuberculosis, but a chest infection of some kind. And he hadn't passed away in custody. He passed away while he was out on bail. in Zimbabwe. So the whole case was fabricated, and that fabrication led to the then Minister of Police unlawfully suspending both Anwar Dramat and Shadrach Subia. And that was the first of the three legs. The second leg, which started in 2013, was called the SARS Rogue Spy Unit. And the SARS Rogue Spy Unit was another crime intelligence manufactured project where they alleged that certain individuals who worked for SARS were engaged in spying. And they said that they were buying spying equipment and that they were installing spy equipment. And as a result of that, the head of SARS lost his job, and the higher echelon of the SARS investigative capacity were all suspended and dismissed unlawfully. And this left SARS without proper investigative capacity. And SARS was then taken over by a Zuma appointee by the name of Tom Moyane. And Tom Moyane then went about dismantling all the investigations that the SARS Special Investigation Unit had been carrying out in respect of the Guptas and the Zuma families. So then that was the second leg. So now we had, with the Zimbabwe rendition, DPCI had been neutralized and new appointees had been placed in DPCI. In Gauteng, a person by the name of Moketeri, who himself was facing claims of corruption, was appointed as the head of Hawks in Gauteng, and a gentleman by the name of Nklemeza, who himself was facing criminal charges, was appointed as the head of DPCI National. And then in SARS, the investigative capacity was hollowed out, and Tom Moyane was appointed as head of SARS. And then the third leg was another story referred to as the Cato Manor Death Squad. And the Cato Manor Death Squad allegations, by the way, all these three stories were given life. They were born on the front pages of the Sunday Times. And the journalists involved in all three stories over a period of three or more years, the journalists that were involved in all those stories were the same journalists, which gave the impression that either they were gullible or they had an axe to grind, but it was subsequently found out that the journalists in question were having regular meetings with people from crime intelligence. So you have these rogue people in crime intelligence who I described when I was giving evidence in Parliament, I described them as a third force, because actually they run a parallel activity, and their activity is aimed at destroying the credibility of good cops whilst protecting corrupt cops. And the reason for doing that is that the corrupt cops are protecting criminals outside in the world of South Africa. And at that stage, what I call State Capture Mark II, the criminals they were protecting were the Gupta family associates, the Zuma family, and the Zuma family associates. So you had this whole process going on. And the Cato Manor Death Squad resulted in the neutralization of, I think, somewhere in the region of 20 police officials from DPCI in KZN. And it's of no coincidence that some of those police officials had arrested and charged people for serious crimes, including corruption and including fraud running into hundreds of millions of rand. And it's no coincidence that those people were people that were very near and dear to the Zuma family. So those three projects was, shall we say, State Capture Mark II.
Okay.
Now, State Capture Mark II, you could say, probably ended in or about 2018 or 2019 with the issuing of the Zondo Commission report. But unfortunately, during that same period of state capture, the police officials that were identified as leading that state capture, although many of them are now on trial or have already been convicted and sent to prison, lots of police officials were appointed unlawfully or promoted unlawfully, and they are still in the criminal justice system. And by leaving those police officials in place, despite there being very clear links of their involvement in State Capture Mark II, those police officials are now running what I describe as State Capture Mark III of the criminal justice system.
Okay.
Because they didn't complete the cleanup.
Okay. Let me take the headlines, and maybe then we possibly could have started with point 3, because the characters that are under question in the public at the moment possibly fall in this terrain that you are speaking to. So with your indulgence, I'm going to take the headlines. If you've just joined us, Bandana Benkosi, this is Power Talk. We are with Paul O'Sullivan, who is taking us through the key points of his testimony there at the ad hoc committee. We're going to take the headlines and get right back to the conversation. Stay tuned.
Stay informed. Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi, 9 a.m. to midday on Power 98.7.
We're still with Mr. Paul O'Sullivan, if you've just joined us, and if you'd like to interact with him, 086198700. Paul, we have 20 minutes left. I wonder if I can just give you pointed questions about the testimony, which you say is obviously a very big submission. But one of the claims you make, and I suppose it's in your state capture point 3, mark point 3, as you put it, is the forensic or rather lifestyle audit you conducted on Masemola and Mkhwanazi, which specifically with regards to Masemola related to the moment prior to his appointment. We do have a statement because in a YouTube video you had claimed that Bejani had called you and requested you to do a lifestyle audit on the people that were shortlisted for police commissioner. And you found that Masemola had failed and was living beyond his means. Bejani says they've never asked you to conduct lifestyle audits. In fact, they never contracted you to. That this was a mere public submission on your part. Can you confirm if the presidency or a specific department in government contracted you to do lifestyle audits of the people that were shortlisted to be appointed as police commissioners? Yeah,
thanks. Look, I can understand Bejani Chowki now doing a U-turn, but the reality is that, when I give evidence at the Zondo Commission, I was under oath and I was obliged to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. And what, unfortunately, Bejani Chowki is doing now is he's denying the events that actually took place at that time. And if he's denying the events that took place, I can explain to you what happened. In late 2021, now, bearing in mind, I'd known Bejani for quite a few years, and we would often meet. And when we met, we would meet either at a coffee shop near to where he lives, or we would meet at my club. And for the most part, I think you could say those meetings were confidential. I don't feel the need to go into all of those meetings now, but the meetings would have gone into various activities. And in late 2021, Bajani asked me for a meeting. I went to the meeting. By the way, he would never come to my office for a meeting. Sometimes I would meet him at a coffee shop near his house, or I would meet him at what's the name of that hotel in Sandhurst? Fancy hotel.
You met him, but so did they contract you to do lifestyle audits?
Yeah, so when you use the word contract, that would assume that there's a written signed agreement. So to be honest with you, there was no contract. It was an oral request. And in late 2021, I was requested in respect of, I think, 2 individuals, not to do a lifestyle audit, but to say whether or not there would be anything that would be a problem if either of those individuals were to be appointed as Commissioner of Police. And this was directly from Bajani Chowki. And he made it clear that he was acting on behalf of the president. So I consider that to be a reality. So we carried out the investigation of those 2 individuals, and I presented him with our findings. And then in February, so that would have been, I think, December 2021 or November 2021. In February, he asked for another meeting, and I met with him. And he gave me 6 names. And I wrote those 6 names down. Bajani never would give you anything in writing. Everything was always oral. He gave me 6 names, and he said it would be appreciated.
Let me help you, Paul. I don't want to lose the crux of it all. So, where did, in essence, Bajani asked you to conduct a lifestyle audit on 6 candidates, which formed part of the 10 that was shortlisted for police commissioner. This you are confident on that he did so?
Yes, in fact, I've got the emails that I sent to him showing him. In fact, on the email that I sent him, I said, Bajani, as requested, here's the report.
And this is a lifestyle. This is a lifestyle audit that you conducted.
No, it's not just lifestyle. He asked me to confirm whether there was anything in respect of the 6 individuals that may be a problem if they were to be appointed as commissioner.
I am interested because lifestyle audit. I'm interested in a confirmation because you have said in public, you've used the term, you've conducted lifestyle audits.
Correct.
This is the case, and I wonder because lifestyle audits. Firstly, there was no written contractual appointment to this effect, but to arrive at a lifestyle audit, you must have had bank statements of these people to look at their money movements. You must have conducted interviews with regards
let me just
to.
Stop you there. It's impossible. Mm-hmm. It's impossible. You are talking about a full lifestyle audit. There's 2 types of lifestyle audits you can do. A full lifestyle audit would require the assistance of the person that's being audited. And that lifestyle audit would require that person to cooperate with the audit and provide lots of information, not just the bank records. Mm-hmm. The other type of lifestyle audit, which can be done online, is what's known as a light lifestyle audit. And that picks up light, yes.
This is in terms of which law. I mean, these people are being considered, Mr. O'Sullivan, for the highest office in the police service. Where do you take a research framework for light lifestyle audit? Where does the research framework come from such that it can be tested as to its credible provision of information?
So what you do is you carry out research to ascertain whether the salaries of people in the police at certain ranks, it's public knowledge. So you can find out, for example, what is the salary of a lieutenant general. And there's average figures out there. You can find that out. It's obviously, this is a few years ago, so it'll be different today. I can't remember what the figures were then, but we were able to establish what the average salary was of the individuals concerned. Once you've got the average salary of the individual concerned, you can then find out through online research, what we call closed source online research. You can find out whether or not those individuals are living beyond their means or within their means. So that's
you do realize the problem with this, Mr. O'Sullivan, as to its credibility. I mean, if a person did an online investigation on you without speaking to you, without testing it in actual fact, and particularly because you are comparing people's access to financial capital vis-a-vis their lifestyle audits, you must have a bank participating to arrive at the credibility of an information. Otherwise, you might result at a pure violation of their. It might result in a pure violation of their reputation.
No, look, let's be clear about this. It's not for me to explain to you, but it would be clear to me from what you're saying that you don't necessarily understand how a lightweight lifestyle audit
I
is
did
performed.
ask, what framework is this? Because a lifestyle audit in the profession, there are frameworks for it. The department itself of public services, SARS, including many government departments, have a framework based in law of a research into a lifestyle audit. Where is the framework for light lifestyle audit, such that you are able to say, as a professional, you can test my information, it can be audited itself as to its validity?
How about this? Why don't I do a light lifestyle audit on you and I provide it to you? And then you'll be able to see exactly
but still
what it comprises of. Because
you would still have to answer.
You would still have to ask me a question. It would be appropriate to let me finish answering.
No, I'm not interrupting you. I want you to help us.
I sat through 20 hours of interrogation
at
the ad hoc committee on Parliament. Now, the reality of the situation is I was asked in late 2021 and early 2022 by the President's advisor, Bajani Chowki, to investigate and determine if there were any issues that may be problematic if those individuals. That was done in confidence. Now, when it's brought up at the ad hoc committee, it's no longer in confidence. And by the way, the report that we produced was not produced for being published. It was produced privately. Yeah. And if a person had to do a thorough lifestyle audit, it would require, in terms of the framework, for that person to cooperate with the lifestyle audit. But lightweight. Let me finish, please.
Yeah, no, I have 10 minutes left.
Let me just explain to you that if you're going to ask me questions, I said this to the ad hoc committee, if you're going to ask me questions and then not let me finish answering the question, it means that you're not creating an opportunity for me to give the correct version of events.
No, so, let me push light where in law, Mr. O'Sullivan, where in law is light lifestyle?
finish.
Is
We are
a light
wasting our
lifestyle
time talking
audit
to
based
you.
in any law? That's the
So
question.
what I wanted to
Point me
explain
to a
you,
law that.
What I need to explain to you is that we didn't just do a lifestyle audit.
You didn't
We
do a
went into
lifestyle
the so-
audit. You
we
did a
went
light
into-
lifestyle
we went
audit.
into the
It's not
social
based in
media
any law.
platforms of the individuals concerned. We also looked at any adverse media articles concerning the individuals, and we produced reports.
Okay.
Now, we haven't published those reports, and the reason we haven't published those reports is because it was done private and confidential.
Okay.
And what you're trying to now suggest is, and it's quite clear that Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has now done a complete U-turn. If the ad hoc committee ask me to provide the evidence, I will provide the evidence that Mbuyiseni Ndlozi requested me to do this for the president.
Yeah.
And we did it, and we didn't charge a cent for doing it, and spent many hours doing the research on the individuals in question. And we can prove that beyond reasonable doubt.
Okay, Mr.
And as far as the framework is concerned, that is all set out in the report we provide.
All right. I understand, because what this means substantially is that you didn't conduct a lifestyle audit. And in your words, you conducted a light lifestyle audit that has its own framework, which is in the report, not the lifestyle audit based in law, as everybody understands it. This is the clarity that has not come out up to this point, because on many occasions you have said that you did a lifestyle audit, and this lifestyle audit was and all of us assumed, since it's a lifestyle audit, the terminology has weight in law, and there is a framework set out in law which requires participation of individuals because it's invasive.
Yeah, well, as I've explained,
Yeah.
you know, if I'd have known that we were going to spend 40 minutes discussing a lifestyle
We
audit,
actually spent
I
10
would-
minutes.
I would-
It's just been 10
I would-
minutes, Mr.
I would have
O'Sullivan.
said, well, we've been doing this since half past.
No,
but if I'd have known we were going to spend all this time discussing
since
a
40.
lifestyle
I
audit,
did
I
say
would
we
have
are
sent-
left with
I
20
would have
minutes
sent
when
you
we
some
started.
dockets. I
Let me
would have
move
sent
to
you
a
some
different.
documents in
I
advance.
accept. I accept
And
the
those
explanation.
documents in advance would have enabled you
I accept
to
the
understand
explanation.
exactly what a light lifestyle audit is. Now,
Yeah.
when you are in communication with somebody,
Uh-huh.
your failure to use the word light is that make me a bad person? You know, the
No, it
reality
doesn't
of the
make you a
situation-
bad person.
the-
I
the
think what it
reality of the
does,
the
what
reality of
what
the
is what it
situation
does,
is-
Mr. O'Sullivan,
You know,
is
I have a
all
very big
along
problem
we
here
have
because
assumed.
what's happening? I'm trying
All
to
along
answer
we have
you,
assumed
and
you
then keep
conducted
cutting
lifestyle
in and
audits.
interrupting
You
me.
are in
So
radio
you
today
need to
saying
explain
you
to me
didn't
whether you
conduct
want to-
lifestyle
whether you want
audits,
me to
which have a
answer you, or
framework
whether
in
you
law.
want me to just the two of us talking at the
Okay.
same time.
I
Because
do want to
if
move
we're
to a
going
different
spend
subject that
all of
is
this
going to
time
also
talking
help
together at the
us.
same time, what benefit is that to the
I
the
think we have
listeners?
exhausted the lifestyle audit. How about we move to a different subject of your testimony?
I think that would be a good idea.
Oh,
because
excellent.
It's clear
So,
to me that you
I do
don't
want to ask
understand
about
how these things work.
I do want to ask about what seemed to occupy, all of us saw it, the members of parliament about your credibility, which boggles me, because if they thought you're not a credible witness, they shouldn't have invited you. But nonetheless, they did, and they put questions. I do have only one. In terms of South Africa's law, particularly as it relates to witnesses appearing in parliament, one can't obstruct witnesses. The law actually uses the word, the Powers and Privileges Act actually uses the word obstruct. You cannot obstruct a person that is providing evidence in front of the ad hoc committee, or you are unable, as it were, which would be read as an intimidation. It seems to me, when you admitted that you sent Nkabinde a text during his testimony, you were violating this specific law of trying to influence what he was saying at that moment to the committee. Would you agree that this is possibly not only illegal, but would have legitimately invited those members of parliament to doubt your credibility?
No, I won't agree, because I didn't know he was giving evidence at the time. Somebody sent me a screenshot of allegations that were being published online by him. It was 8 o'clock in the evening. I assumed that they had finished with all their, their doings. And I sent him a message informing him that he's a lying crook and he belongs in prison, and that it's an offense to testify under oath and lie. It's called perjury. So at the end of the day, that may not look good, but it's a reality. The problem is the ad hoc committee invite these criminals to come and give evidence, give them an easy ride. And then when a person who's identified these people as being criminals many, many years ago comes along, my credibility is attacked by certain members, select members of the committee. And those select members of the committee, I am saying, are in cahoots with the criminals in the criminal justice system who are involved in what I describe as state capture Mark III.
Okay.
So that is the problem that we have.
Okay.
You have a committee which is biased.
Okay. Final question is, part of what they put to you are the circumstances in which you took some admission to guilt over a sexual offense act. What were the circumstances of that accusation that was made to you? Because what is flying around is that you were accused by an underage woman to have made undue sexual advances to them, and to the effect that they were underage is that at the time they were 16 years old. Is this true that a woman who was 16 years old at the time accused you of sexual advances that were unwanted?
You know, this is absolute rubbish, and I'm absolutely shocked. I can't remember which member it was that made that allegation, but at the time, I made it clear that that was fabricated and absolute rubbish. And if that member wants to come forward, I'll have a debate with him, and he must give the name and date and time and place and everything where these allegations took place. And it's complete lie, and it's been done only to
discredit
maliciously and dishonestly defame me and destroy my credibility. I am not in the business of making sexual advances, not only to children, but not to anybody. I'm happily married, and I've got no wish, desire, or intention to be involved with anything of that nature.
What admission of a fine did you pay?
Let me finish, please. You know,
I have 5 minutes left. Remember me, I'm on radio.
What I don't like doing is for people to make allegations, false, dishonest, and defamatory allegations, and having made these false, dishonest, and defamatory allegations, to then prevent me. This is exactly what the committee were doing, and it's exactly what you're doing now. You cannot sit there.
But Mr. O'Sullivan, what fine? You said you paid an admission of 500, which was an admission of guilt.
No.
What were the circumstances of that admission?
I said nothing of the kind. You are completely mixing up what was said.
Okay.
And I think you're completely mixing up what was said.
Okay, please correct the record then.
You yourself are being malicious. You need to go back.
But what admission of guilt did you pay? What admission of guilt did you pay?
Play the tape again and listen to what was said instead of siding with criminals.
No, it's a question. I'm not siding with them.
What you've done this morning is you've destroyed your own credibility, and you've destroyed the credibility of Power FM.
Are you going to explain what admission of guilt did you? What were the circumstances of the admission of guilt that you paid? What admission of guilt circumstances did you ever? I'm not attacking you, Mr. O'Sullivan. When you feel the heat beneath your skin, you think you are being attacked. The question is simple. The question is simple. What were the circumstances of admission of guilt?
I think you need to go back and have some training.
But we are asking a simple question. What circumstances of admission of guilt, what were the circumstances of admission of guilt with regards to GBV case did you get involved in? That's the question. And that's why members of parliament were questioning your credibility, is that you said by your own admission there was a GBV case in which you did an admission of guilt, and then went on to compare it that you shouldn't have paid the 500 rands because it was like paying a traffic fine. This is a question. It's not an attack on you. And I'm saying to you, this is the reason a credibility of a witness could become a problem to members of parliament or to an investigatorial committee. If questions are defeating you, there's nothing I can do for you. You get me, Mr. O'Sullivan?
I don't think there's anything I can
There's
do
no
for you
training that
except to
anybody
advise
needs.
you to go and get some training.
The last person in the room who's going to speak about training is you. You know that you have done even constitutional training when you did not have the proper qualifications. It's not the training that is in question. The question is, what were the circumstances? What were the circumstances in which you paid an admission of guilt fine on a GBV case? That's the question. You are unable to answer this. You claim that you are being accused or you are being attacked. It's not an attack. That's the question. You don't dilly-dally over it and bring people's training and the credibility of power. I think you don't like being questioned. That's the point.
And I would invite you never to bother contacting me again because I don't
Okay,
like
that's
dealing
fine.
with
Bye-bye
dishonest
then. Thank you. It's 1100 hours, Bantwana Benkosi. We're going to take the news and we'll try and get the steam off with Dr. Dumi.